Thank you all for coming out this evening. My name is Merwin Chambers. I am treasurer of the Friends of the Gwinnett County Public Library. The Friends work to promote the libraries, and we assist the library staff at events such as this one. If you're not a current member, you can talk to me after the program, or my wife will be at the silent auction table. I encourage you to join if you're not a member. The author's book is for sale and signing thanks to our independent bookstore partner, Eagle Eye Bookshop. We thank Eagle Eye for their support and encourage you to support them also. The proceeds of tonight's silent auction will benefit the Friends of the Library and to help support programs such as this one when we have to rent facilities or provide the snacks that I hope you're enjoying tonight. This program is being filmed and will be available for viewing on the library's YouTube channel in a few weeks. Are you living with clutter? My wife will attest to that. Are you trying to make space for a loved one in your home? Or are you moving to a smaller home or a retirement community? Matt Paxton has help for you. Matt has helped people from all walks of life who want to live more simply, declutter, and downsize. As a feature cleaner on the TV show Hoarders and the host of Emmy-nominated Legacy List with Matt Paxton on PBS, he has identified the psychological roadblocks that most organizational experts routinely miss, but that prevent so many of us from lightening our material load. The title of Matt's book is Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff. Declutter, downsize, and move forward with your life. Please join me in welcoming Matt Paxton to the stage.
Hello, hello. How are we? It's a good crowd. I love it. All right, I live right up the road. If anybody doesn't know, I live in Sewanee. Moved here 2 years ago with my beautiful bride right there. Raise your hand, please. My wife is there. And we have 7 kids, so I'll get to the joke right away. Yes, I'm 40 kids. We did with 7 kids, 6 boys, 8 to 16. Yeah, 8 to 14. 6 boys, 8 to 14, and a 16-year-old girl. So, and that changes every day because someone has a birthday every week. All right. Is that all right if I get down a little bit? Is that all right? I'm a walker. I'm a talker. All right. I want to start with 2 things. One, if some of you know me from a TV show on Hoarders, that is a TV show that puts a mental disorder on television for entertainment. There's an ethical dilemma from the beginning. All right, so let's address it. The issue there is we pay for a year of therapy after that. If we did not pay for that therapy, I don't think it would be an ethical show to do, to be quite honest. And they tried to cut it one year. They said, we don't have the budget for the therapy anymore, we're not going to do it. And all of the therapists and all the cleaners agreed to quit. And we said, well, you don't have a show then. And they brought it back, so we have it, which is good. I'm really lucky. The last 5 years of my life has been really dedicated more to downsizing, which is all of us think we're hoarders. Probably 3% of us are. We're near a library, so it's probably 10%. But we have learned that most of us just have a little too much stuff. We've been in our house for a long time. Right? I'm going to ask quick show of hands. How many of you have lived in your house for 10 years? How about 15 years? How about 20 years? How about 30 years? Anybody 40 years? Anybody 50 years? Okay, so average there was 25 to 30. We've got some people who have been in a home for more than 40 years. Will it take us longer than a 3-day holiday weekend to clean the house out? Yes. All right, so if some of you turn around and leave now, I want you to remember that. All right, it'll take a little longer than normal. Get the clicker working here. Give me 1 second. All right, you know who I am. You've seen me everywhere. I think the coolest thing about my job is I've been helping families do this for 20 years. I do it on TV, but I really do it in people's attics. I do it in their garages. And that's how you learn the passion for this. You got to be hanging out with people. And I get to hear these incredible, like amazing stories, hanging out with people in their attic, hearing about things. I mean, I'll tell you a bunch of stories today. We had one lady, we were cleaning out her attic, and she said, there's a flag up there. And we opened this trunk up, and it was a 44-star flag. Wow. And I said, where did you get this? She goes, I don't know. It's been in my attic since I got here. She goes, I think it was my grandfather's. She goes, I want you to tell me more about it. And this was my very first episode of Legacy List, believe it or not. And we did some research, and it turns out her great-grandfather was a train conductor the day Utah became a state. And they put a flag on the side of his train, and at the end of his shift, he's like, well, that's pretty nifty, and he took the flag. And he put it in his trunk, his war trunk, which we found 100 years later. Well, 80-something years later. And my grandpa would have done the same thing. And it was really, we called the Smithsonian just to find out a little couple things, and they're like, man, they only made 4 of those. And he goes, we have 3 of them. And he goes, how did you get that? I said, man, we found it in the trunk. He goes, well, any chance she'd sell it to us or give it to us? I said, I don't think so. Let me ask her. And she goes, well, how much are they going to pay me for it? And all of a sudden, the history didn't matter. The price did, which was funny. I'm just very lucky. Hoarders has been, all right, here we go. So the book, we'll hear a lot of that. I'm very lucky to have written this with AARP. AARP is a good partner for me. Basically, they really help get the message out that people need help downsizing, and I love that. And they let me teach classes each year. They let me teach this class a couple years ago. All right, this is Legacy List. If you haven't seen Legacy List, this is my new show. It's on PBS. Just type in Guy from Hoarders or type in Legacy List, and it'll pop up. You can watch it online. You can watch it on PBS. I wanted to make, about 10 years ago, I realized I didn't want to keep doing Hoarders forever. I had all these incredible stories that I really wanted to share, and I said, I'm going to make a positive television show about aging Americans. I thought this would be easy to sell. And 27 networks turned me down. Bravo said, are there any attractive granddaughters that will fight over this stuff? And I said, I'm sure there is, but that's not the show I want to make. Right? And I gave up on it, and PBS called me and they said, hey, we love your show. We'd love to make it. I said, is there any money in public television? They said, not at all, but you'll be able to make the show you want to make. And here we are. First 2 seasons have been nominated for an Emmy. So we're doing something right. And these are literally 3 of my best friends. I ran track against Avi in high school. We've known each other since we were 16 years old. We've worked together for, 20 years. I've known these guys forever, so it's a fun show. Please give it a shot. It'll make you want to call someone in your family and share stories. All right? And the stories is a word you're going to keep hearing today. Because I learned a lot of things cleaning up. I mean, every time I think I've said I've seen it all, then the next day I find something and it's like, wow, that's brand new. Like, that is brand new. I saw one guy, what do you say, weirdest thing? People ask, what's the weirdest thing you ever saw? One guy had 10,000 rats in his house, and they were his pets. He loved them. Absolutely loved them. And I said, when did you know you had too many rats? And he goes, well, one time I fell asleep, and he goes, and I woke up, and this rat was licking my eyeball. And he goes, I can tell you what a rat's tongue feels like. And I said, well, yeah, that's new for me. I've never heard that before. All right. Okay, so what have we learned? This is what we're going to learn today, all right? We hold on to things because people and the emotions attached to them. You don't actually care about the rubber. You don't actually care about the wood. You care about the people that are attached to that, all right? It's the stories. Believe it or not, I could wrap up 15 years of Hoarders in one sentence. It's never about the stuff, all right? It's about the people. It's about the love, all right? We can't let go because we love those people so much. I started changing my verbiage on Hoarders about 10 years in. When you go into a hoarder's house, people say, oh, that's gross, that's disgusting, that's horrible. And I'd walk in and say, man, you love a lot of people. And that changed the whole tone. Real quick, she'd be like, yeah, I do. And then I got the respect because they knew that I knew what was going on. So this is important. We hope these items are going to bring us happiness. And this is real. We're looking for our happiness somewhere. The reality is it's temporary happiness. It's not going to be forever. Stuff fills a very short-term void. Right? And the stuff is the stepping stone from then to now. This is really important. We talk a lot about this in my book. Right? I love the concept of a stepping stone because it allows you to let go of this stuff later. Right? And we're going to talk about all the things the reasons we don't let go. But I want you to buy into this concept. The stuff was a stepping stone that got you from point A to point B. Do you need all the stuff to get you from point B to point C? No. It was a stepping stone. It helped us get there. Right? And this is a quote from a book. I put a couple of these quotes in here. Right? When you find an item in your attic, remember it was a stepping stone. When you left it there, you needed it. Right? But now you don't. You've grown. Can we keep learning at an older age? I think that's when we start. Honestly, I didn't learn anything until I was like 40. I thought I was too smart at the time. Right? It takes gray hair to really understand the mistakes and the successes you've had. Right? Stepping stones are really important when it comes to stuff because you have to let it go. It is holding us back from living. All right. Here's how we justify holding on to things. We need them. You're allowed to laugh, y'all. All right. We think we might need them later. They definitely were expensive. All right. And we think they're going to be worth a lot later. They're not. Specifically the Beanie Babies. Okay. And the Longaberger baskets. I had someone try to pay me literally with a Longaberger basket full of Beanie Babies. And she goes, "This is my best ones." I said, "I'm sure they are, but I don't accept Beanie Babies." All right. And we think that our kids or grandkids are going to want the stuff someday. They don't. All right. I wanted to name this book, Nobody Wants Your Stuff, but it was already taken. And what I found out is it's actually not true. We all think nobody wants our stuff. That's not true. They don't want that stuff. They want other stuff, not your dining room specifically. All right, they don't need anything in the dining room. Houses are now being built without dining rooms for a reason, because we don't hang out in dining rooms. What did we all do in dining rooms every Sunday afternoon? Eat with our entire family. That's why that room is sacred. That's why that room is special. That's why that china hutch is so important. That's why that really expensive china is very important. All right? I got divorced 5 years ago. Guess the one thing we wanted each other to have? The china. No, you have it. No, you have it. All right? But we're going to learn today. I'm going to teach you some skills today to find out what stuff do the kids actually want. All right? Why do we hold on to things? Well, too many positive memories equals too much stuff. Is that why we're here tonight? We got too much stuff, right? And that stuff is holding us back from living the life we actually want. My average room, this is actually a younger room than I'm used to, I'm going to be honest. 45 to 65-year-old women are who usually come to hear me speak because they're dealing with their 65 to 85-year-old mom. Did we pretty much cover the room? All right. I cannot stress this. People call me, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to move into my adult children's house, or I'm ready to move into a senior living community, or I'm ready to downsize, I'm ready to do something. Great, what's holding you back? Well, just my pictures. I just got to go through my pictures really quick. How many pictures you got? I don't know, 50 shoe boxes? All right. I'm going to ruin your life right now. An inch of pictures is 100 pictures. How many pictures do you have in your guest bedroom closet right now? See? It's under all the wrapping paper and extra gift bags. See? Am I wrong? I've been in a few of these houses. All right? But those things, and it's not because we're lazy, it's because we want to honor the people in the stories that are attached to that stuff. The kids, the younger kids, they don't have as many of those stories because why? Cool. Well, it's digital and they're 18. They haven't done anything yet. Not to be disrespectful, I've got I've got almost 50 years of stories. My kids have 10 years of stories. They just don't have the emotions attached yet. That's why it's easy for kids to let go of things. All right, the fantasy is, this is my favorite picture. All right, look, this is a great dining room, man. Copper charger plates, we got doilies, we got a really nice tablecloth, our crystal candelabra. Someone lit when's the last time you had dinner actually under lit candles? I love this picture. It is Thanksgiving, very good. You'd be good at Clue, I love that. Never even saw that. This is my grandmother's old dining room. I said no to all of that stuff. All right? The reality is this is what it's doing to the kids. All right? And it's because they don't know the stories. They don't know the reasons you held on to it. All right? So how do we start? Well, number one, you got to know your finish line. And this is really important. Where are you going? Most people call me, I'm ready to downsize. Got to start cleaning. Great. Where are you moving? Oh, I don't know yet. But I got to start cleaning. How are you going to pack for a vacation if you don't know where you're going? Are you packing for the winter or for summer? I mean, you got to know where you're going, but more importantly, and I learned this from my wife, who is a very well-known minimalist, she said, what's your why? And the why is what really matters. Why are you moving? Is it to get closer to grandkids? Is it to get closer to a hospital? Is it just to have a smaller house? What is your reason? Why do you want to change your life right now? Some of us, life happens to us. We didn't even get to make that decision. I mean, just someone died, and now I'm left with all this. Now, I didn't really tell my whole background. When I was 24, my dad, my stepdad, both my grandfathers passed away. I was a kid. I was a very immature kid, but I had to clean up the 4 houses. And it was emotionally draining. I was really sad. There was no book to tell you what to do. Like, it was really, really hard. And my grandfather always said, if something sucks, do it as a job, because other people will think it sucks too, and they'll pay you to do it. And man, he was right. And by the way, whenever someone nods at that, I know they're a hard-working person, because they get it. Right? My grandfather was totally right, and here we are 25 years later, I'm still cleaning houses. Okay? The why is important because the why is what keeps us from quitting. All right, weight loss and decluttering are the 2 easiest things to quit. Weight loss, you just got to grab a box of Cheez-Its and it's done. All right? Or Oreos is my favorite. All right? Or, if it's weightlifting, you just don't show up. It's real simple. Or it's downsizing, I just shut the door. It's really easy to quit. The why is simple, and I tell a lot of stories to prove my points. Right? This is my why. I lost everybody when I was young. This is my son. Was he 13 now? 13? What is he? Ish. 12. No, he's not 12. He's only 12. So let's say he's 13. Let's go with it. Let's say he's 13. And he's 12 in this picture, I think. But my son asked me one night, he said, hey, are you going to die the same age as your dad? And I said, do you think about this stuff? He said, I think about it all the time, Dad. And I said, no, I'm not going to die. And he goes, well, I was doing the math. And whenever he says I was doing the math, something good's getting ready to come out. And he goes, you're 47. He goes, if you die, your dad was 52. If you die when you're 52, he goes, Dad, I'll still be in high school. And he goes, and I can see that being a dad is really hard. He goes, and I'm going to need help when I'm a dad. He goes, so I need to know you're still going to be here. And I'm like, buddy, I mean, as a dad, there's nothing as a dagger in the heart. And I said, buddy, I'm going to be here. And he goes, great. Why do you eat all that food that you know is so bad for you? From the mouths of babes. All right, and was he wrong? No, not at all. I want to be a grandpa. That's my why. And so every day I'm working out. I don't want to go. I hate working out. I want to sit at home and eat Cheez-Its, be honest. Right? But I got to work out because I want to be a dad. And so every time I'm working out, I just think in my head, grandpa, 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 because that's my why. Right? You've got to have a why, whatever it is, because that why is what keeps you from quitting. Right? And I put it on a piece of paper and I put it on my wall. We can lie to it's hard to lie to people you love, but it's really easy to lie to yourself. All right? You got to write that why down, and you got to put it on the wall. I put it by the mirror in the bathroom. I put it on my office wall because I have to look at it every day, because otherwise I'll justify myself out of this. We can justify any behavior. Right? So you've got to stick to your why, because it's going to keep you from quitting. Right? Here we go. You've got to keep coming back to it. I can't stress that enough. All right, starting small, I think that's the biggest challenge people do. We've already talked about, we've had a lot of 30, 35-year people living in the house. Like we said, we're not going to clean it. Most people call me. Anybody want to guess the number one day I get of calls? No, close. Day after Thanksgiving. Second to day after Christmas. Right? Everybody calls me. Don't you do this because they go home, they see mom's house. All right, we got to do something. Come by, estimate it. I'll come by, do it. Then I say it's going to cost this amount of money for us to do it. Great. And then I don't hear from them for a year. They call back when? Day after Thanksgiving, the next year. I had one family, promise you, not an exaggeration, they called us 7 years in a row. And I said, hey man, go in the dining room, you're going to see some painter's tape I put on the wall. He's like, yeah, I see the blue painter's tape. I said, great, if you can see it, the price is the same. It hasn't changed since last year. I don't need to go back. All right, I want you to start small. I want you to start really small. All right, 10-minute sweep. If you're only going to take one piece of advice today, please go with this. All right, and I'm going to say that probably 5 different times. But for real, 10 minutes, that's it. Just 10 minutes. You can work 10 minutes. I do 7:50 to 8. When you hear Final Jeopardy, dude, you're almost done. You're so close. All right? 10 minutes is really important because you've got to prove to yourself that you can do it. Most of us have quit and quit and quit and quit and quit. It's not what you got done. It's that you did something. And I want you to do it consistently. Right? There's a lot of similarities to working out here, if you can't tell. Right? I do not want you to go start on a Saturday and work for 6 hours, because guess what's going to happen? You will quit. That's the whole reason you're here tonight. If you didn't, none of you have succeeded yet. That's why you're here. Okay? If you did, you'd already be living in Florida. Okay? So this is a key. You got to start small, and it's got to be an achievable space. I like to say, do one part of your dining room table. That became the junk mail table during the pandemic. Right? Clean off that one section, or do the junk drawer. My wife is against this. She says no on the junk drawer. I say yes on the junk drawer because it's filled with Bed Bath & Beyond coupons, the blue ones that say 20% off. Get rid of them. They're out of business, y'all. Get rid of them. All right? They're going out of business for 15 years. They're filled with rubber bands. They're filled with, most of you in the garage, it's the red, what's the coffee? The red tin. It's the red Folgers tin. Back then it was red and blue. That's the only type of coffee they had. And it's filled with nails or pennies or rubber bands. And it's probably 3 for each one. All right? Start small because you need to prove to yourself that you can do it. And a side note, this is not up here. It's not what about you get done. It's that you prove to yourself that you can do something. Right? But this is when I do, and I don't like to say gender roles here, but women tend to say, instead of, they focus not on the 10 minutes that we did do, but they focus on the 50 minutes that we did not do. That is not a key to success. The key to, and I don't mean to point out gender roles, and someone's going to hit me on the way out, but at the end of the day, I want you to succeed. So I want you to say, great, we did 10 minutes. And then be proud of that. The next night, come back 10 minutes. Next night, come back 10 minutes. Don't do 10 minutes and say, all right, well, Saturday we're going to do 8 hours. Because you will fail. This is about easing into it. All right? You've got to, he paid me to say this part, by the way. All right? We've got to take our time here and be proud of what we did. We don't typically take pride in the work that we do. After we've retired, we tend to really just put ourselves down. You need to be proud of what you've accomplished, even if it's 10 minutes. Right? And the whole team, when I say team, anyone that lives in that house has to buy into this concept. All right, we're going to focus on your legacy. These are my grandparents. I love this story. This is Russell and Jane Paxton, my grandparents. Obviously, Legacy is the name of my TV show. But I think it's really important to share stories as you're cleaning. I mean, a lot of us, we're the last ones in the family that know these stories. And so we want to get them out. We want to get them told. And I was lucky to come from a long line of storytellers. So I created my show legacy list. What a legacy list is a list of the top 5 and most important items in your home. They tell your family story. They tell your family history. They are rarely financially valuable. They are highly emotionally valuable. Okay? I want you to write that list. When I started this 20 years ago, it was called the fire list. It was, if your house catches on fire, what are the 5 things you want to grab? Yell it out to me. Give me one item. Everybody give me one item you're going to grab. Pictures. Dogs. How about your spouse? Anybody want to throw spouse in there? No one ever says spouse for some reason. And most will double down on dog first, usually. All right. All right. But there's a few items that really matter. And a lot of them are for items from people that are no longer with us. Right? Because you love those people so much. You need to write this down. You need to document it somehow. Because once you're gone, so are those stories. Right? I love this. A legacy is a family store or family lore. My grandpa they lived in Oklahoma. He worked on oil rigs back in the 50s. He had in the war, man, he had a killer job. He was in Alaska. He was in a hot air balloon. And they would take him up in the hot air balloon and they would look at Russia. They say, yeah, nothing going on. And they would go back down in the balloon. And he got to go up in a hot air balloon every day for like 2 years in World War II. Really fascinating guy. I got to fish with him all the time. They were homesteaders. They moved to Colorado. They would go fishing there every summer on his vacation. And my grandma always told the story. She said, he was in there buying worms and night crawlers to go fishing. She goes, he was in there about 10 minutes longer than normal, so I knew something was up. And he came out and he got in the car and he goes, we're moving to Colorado. We bought the store. And she said, okay. And that was it. And they both told that story about 20 different times, and it was always the same story. So I think it was true. All right? They lived there. It's right on the Wyoming-Colorado border. The house is at almost 10,000 feet. They had this little country store. They eventually turned it into a post office. It was called the Paxton Cowdrey Store. I love it. I spent my summers there helping them prepare for the winter. We would chop wood, catch fish. That was about it. Because their whole life was about having enough food and enough wood for winter. I'm going to be honest. That was a pretty awesome way to live. They didn't have money. They didn't have a whole lot of problems. My favorite story about them is they started a church. They started a Southern Baptist church in the mountains, middle of the Rocky Mountains in Wyoming. And he preached and she taught Sunday school. And nobody came for the first 8 years. And swear to God, it was just the 2 of them. And she would teach Sunday school to him and he would preach to her. And then their neighbor, Miss Mimey, she showed up after 8 years. And now it's a big church. It's crazy. But these people worked hard. And that's the legacy that gets told by them. All right? My kids could repeat that story word for word to you on stage right now. Why? Because I've told it 1,000 times. All right? The power of the story is a legacy, not the item. The item really doesn't matter. I've said before, it's never about the stuff. It's the stories attached to them. All right? This is my mom's cookbook. I love this. This is one of my legacy list items. By the way, if you got your phone, take the picture right now. This is a recipe of my grandmother's apricot pies. They're amazing. When my dad died, my mom went on the road, and she took this book with her, and she had every woman left alive in the family. She flew to Colorado. She flew to Texas. She went to Virginia. She drove all around. She got all the women at church that raised us. They all wrote their recipes. Then my grandma got my great-grandma's recipes, everybody else's recipes, all written down in this book, and then she gave it to me. And so these are all the recipes that I grew up on. Now I'm going to fast forward to this year. I'm sitting with my Korean stepsons talking about my great-grandma and my grandma, and we're cooking their apricot pies. We're sitting in the kitchen, we're baking. They're like, who was this? And I go, it's my great-grandma, and I got to tell them some pictures. And I got to tell them some stories. Who was your grandpa? Well, it was Russell Paxton. So I got to basically tell them the story of my family while we're going through these recipe books. It creates conversation. It creates storytelling. The item. Is this book important? Sure. But it's the stories that make it amazing. Right? I want you to tell these stories. Right? Oop, here we go. There you go. I want you to document and tell these stories. That's the step 4. By the way, I'm going to have one slide at the end that tells you every step. Right? So you can just take a picture of that one at the end. Right? And I think obviously they're filming it, so this will be available for the library system to come back and watch. Right? Documenting and telling them are 2 separate things. It's easy for us to tell them, but we don't like to document them. Can you record it? Yes. You all have, there's a thing in your phone that looks like a microphone, an old radio microphone. Click on that and just tell the story in it. Can you hit video? Sure. Can you write it down? If that's what you like. Whatever. I actually love Zoom now. We've had a lot of families that do these Zoom legacy list calls. It's basically show and tell for grandma. The whole family comes on, and they say, all right, grandma, hold up the item. Grandma holds up the item. By the way, hit record. It's kind of important. All right, hit record. Grandma tells the story. There's 2 things I love about that. 1, we get a snapshot in time of whatever is important to grandma. We also get a snapshot in time of everybody else on the call. Think about this. In 20 years, look back and say, oh my gosh, Uncle John had hair. That's so cool. Look at Sue. Oh my God, Sue's 10 years old. Wonder when she's going to get out of prison. Man, that's crazy. Right? You never know, but it puts a snapshot and it forces the story to be told, and now we have it forever. Right? I cannot tell you how many houses I've cleaned where I find a recording device still in the packaging. Because they bought it, and you're all nodding your head, so you know what I'm going to say. They bought it to record the stories, and then they didn't do it. Right? Just, it doesn't have to be fancy. Just hit record. All right, here we go. There we go. All right. Sharing the actual story separates the emotion from the item. You'll be shocked. Most people think, I don't know, man. The more I tell the story, I don't think I'm going to want to let go of it. Believe it or not, the more you share these stories, the easier it becomes to let go of it. I've seen it 1,000 times. By the way, this is my grandma. This is my youngest boy. 4 generations in between. I love it. I got a lot of great stories about her. I'm going to hold them, though. All right. Now, you know what? I'm going to tell the story. I don't care. My favorite, how are we on time? Yeah, we got time for a story. She wanted me to take her whole dining room. I said, Nanny, I don't want your dining room. I'm good. She was moving into hospice. By the way, she's beat hospice twice. She's off again. She almost got kicked out of her senior living community because she bribed a nurse $1,000 to get her own independent room. We don't know where she got the $1,000. We manage her money. We have no idea how she got $1,000. Last time I gave a speech in Richmond, Virginia, I didn't tell anyone in my family because I was only going to be there for like 3 hours. And she somehow found out, and she somehow bribed somebody to drive her there. And so she was sitting there in a wheelchair on the front row. She's amazing. She's a Spitfire. I love her. The reason I tell this story, she wanted me to take her dining room. I didn't want to think she was really upset. I said, Nanny, I want your bike. She says, my bicycle? Why? And I said, well, that time we were riding down Dead Man's Hill. She's like, what are you talking about? And then I grew up in this one neighborhood, lived there for 45 years, raised my kids in the same neighborhood. At the back of the neighborhood is this very folklorish hill called Dead Man's Hill, kind of like that movie Stand By Me. All right? Like, it was a big deal to us. And we were not allowed to ride our bikes down Dead Man's Hill because we were told some kid died on it on a sled when we were like 5. Now, I've looked, there's no fact, there's no proof of that, but damn it, I believe it. All right, somebody died because every kid in the neighborhood said it. And I found out from my kids later in life, they heard the same thing. That's why it's called Dead Man's Hill. Well, my brother, this is 40 years ago, my brother and I came up with a really good idea that we were going to trick her and ride her bike down Dead Man's Hill. And so we're like, Nanny, we can beat you to the top of that hill. You're slow. And knowing my grandma, she said, well, no way, I'm going to beat you guys. So she went flying. We went as fast as we could. We slammed our brakes when we got to the top of Dead Man's Hill, and she just kept going, woo, all the way down Dead Man's Hill, furious, screaming at us. Hot summer, Virginia, very similar to a Georgia summer. It took about an hour to get her way back to the house. My brother and I are in the air conditioning, laughing our butts off. She came in furious, ready to spank us. I mean, really angry. She had rheumatoid arthritis, so it was just tickled, which made us laugh harder, which made her even angrier. And she was furious. I mean, it just, I don't remember what happened. Maybe we got grounded. I don't know. But I remember it was one of the funniest moments of my life. And I said, when it was time for Nanny to clean out her house, I said, Nanny, I just want that bike. I said, Nanny, you did stuff with us. All my stories with you are of us biking or skiing or hiking. And I told her all these stories. And I said, I don't need the dining room. I need that emblem on her little Raleigh bike. So guess what I have at my house? I don't know. She threw it away. I didn't get the Raleigh thing. All right? So note, you got to talk about it. You got to tell the stories, because on the backside, she didn't know what was important to us, and I didn't know what was important to her. Because guess what? We weren't sharing stories. All right? You got to share the stories. All right. This is probably my favorite story. This is a lady that we found the 44-star flag in her house. That's Armando right there. We were cleaning out the house. We held up this picture. And her granddaughter very quickly says, "That's not Grandpa." And we said, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, that's Armando. He was my lover." And she just flips over this. She's like, "Next conversation." We're like, "No. We want to hear about Armando." And she goes, "Well, I was 21. I was teaching at MIT." She goes, "It was right before the war, when the war started." And she goes, "That was Armando. He was from Spain. He was a Spanish history professor." She goes, "We had a torrid love affair that summer." And she goes, "The next year, I met your grandpa." And I was like, "Hey, so you taught at MIT?" She goes, "Yeah, I was the first female adjunct professor at MIT." Wow. And her granddaughter goes, "I thought you were just a student there." And she goes, No, I was the first female professor at MIT. And a picture of Armando is how this adult granddaughter found out that her grandma is one of the most badass women around. You got to tell the stories. Right? That's now Miss Lennis. Modern times, she refused to take her gloves and fur off. I think she wanted me to be like her last loved affair. She was amazing. I love this woman. She still calls me. She's so funny. I love her. She called a couple weeks ago. She's like, "Hey, I can't find this piece of china that was in the house. We moved her." And we moved her on Legacy List TV show. And so I had to go back and watch the episode. And I said, "Hey, did you check the dresser by your front door?" She goes, "Oh yeah, there it is. Thanks for telling me that." Yeah, that was it. All right. So we're going to find someone to tell the story to. This is a chance to get the grandkids involved. Can't stress that enough. They do want to be involved, I promise you. They just don't act like it. You start telling stories, they're down, man. They're going to listen. I've got strangers on here, and this is why. There's so many, especially when someone passes away, when you lose a spouse or you lose a kid, something bad happens, everybody at church or all the neighbors say, "What can I do to help?" And we all say, "Nothing." Believe it or not, strangers are going to be more impressed with your stories than family members. This is an absolute amazing time to have somebody come over and just say, "Hey, I'm going to go through like 100 pictures. Would you just sit with me and go through them?" I know that sounds crazy, but this is a great way. You have to have an audience to tell a story. It can be electronic, it can be in person, but you got to tell somebody because they're going to ask questions. All right? We've said this, document it anywhere, anyway. I use an app called Artifacts. It's pretty cool. Check it out if you want, but what it does is you're able to actually take a picture or a video of the item, and then you can record the story to it, which I love. But I don't care if you just write it down, that's fine. Just do something to get the story down, all right? Don't get stuck on the details. This is what, if you're over 55, someone told you somewhere along the way you got to be perfect. You don't. And this is what trips a lot of us up from doing. By the way, a lot of the hoarding work I did, they started off, the house was immaculate. And if they couldn't keep it perfect, then they didn't do it at all. All right? You don't have to be perfect. In fact, I just want you to get started. Just start sharing stories, period. All right? If it's perfect, it's probably not true. I'm going to be honest. All right? Just get started and say something. Start with whatever you remember. All right? And I'm talking, what was it? All right? How did you get it? Who gave it to you? What do you remember about that day? I mean, very basic things. The smells and the sounds are where I start. I can tell you the smell of my grandpa's country store. I can tell you the smell because it smelled like night crawlers right? And candy. You know what that smells. I said night crawlers, you know exactly what it smells like. Right? I can hear all the cowboys walking in with their cowboy boots on the hardwood floor. And then it makes me think about other things. Right? I love this. Memories start more memories. I'm going to say it again. Memories start more memories. If you just get started, they'll start going. In my book, I've got 20 things I call story starters, which are just you can sit down with have the grandkids ask you these questions. And I'm going to ask anyone here, tell me, what was your first job and what did you get paid per hour for it? Someone yell it out.
Babysitting, 50 cents.
50 cents, babysitting.
Busboy,
All right.
$3.35.
Busboy, $3.35. You are rich, man. Holy cow. All right. Yeah. Look, I've had people say 10 cents. I've had people. I mean, the stories you hear from that. What was your first car? Ask Grandma, what did she do for fun in high school? I always love it when I find that people are like, "What? My grandma played basketball?" She's like, "Yeah, I was all state." What? They can't believe it. Can't believe Grandma did something other than sitting in the dining room with her hands around the purse so that someone in her own family doesn't steal her purse. Yeah? That always makes me laugh. It's like, what? We're all related. No one's stealing your purse. Right? Memories start more memories. Just get started. Okay? Say anything, because if you got an audience, they're going to start asking questions. All right. Somehow, some way, tell the story. Step 5, I want you to focus on donation over selling. You have already decided you don't want the item. That's the hardest part. You already decided you didn't want it. And so if you donate it, you're excited, man, I'm going to give it to someone that's going to make their life better. But if you go to sell it, you say, he's only going to give me 10 cents? Well, yeah, no, I'm going to keep it now. It's worth $4. You just told me you didn't want it. We already established that. Why did a fictitious price change that decision? Again, you're here tonight. You've already decided you want to change something in your life. Don't let money spent years ago affect your future life. Right? You already decided you didn't want it. I cannot stress that enough. Right? I've cleaned, good Lord, probably 20,000 houses. I'm estimating over 25 years with me and my team. The average price, anybody want to, this is a good guess. I'll just tell you. After family takes what they want and you take what you want, guess what the average value of the stuff left in the house is if I go sell it all? $200. Good, that's low, but thank you for going really low. $8,000. Your whole lifetime of stuff that if you want, the stuff you want and the stuff your kids, it's pretty much always right around $8,000. When I moved here 2 years ago, it was $7,960. I couldn't believe it. I sold everything I didn't need here that I brought. It's pretty much always around $8,000. Right? Because the kids take what they want, you keep what you need. The rest is just not that much. Right? You will never be happy. I've never met someone that's super stoked about the amount of cash they got. Right? Because we love, and that even goes for rich people. I remember we found $2 million, swear to God, $2 million in an envelope. It was a sealed manila envelope that said trash. And when working in Hoarders, you know that's, they're hiding it on purpose. We're like, wait a minute, they wouldn't seal it if it was trash. So we opened it, it was $2,000 in non-converted stock sheets, like stock options. And it was crazy. It was over $2 million. We get to the family, they're like, oh yeah, thanks. Like, no big deal, because they were so rich, that didn't even matter to them. Right? We found like $18,000 in nickels, dimes, and quarters in that house. But to that family, didn't matter. It's all relative. You're never happy with the cash you get out of the house, but you are always happy with donating and giving something to making someone else's life better. Right? Change your mindset from, what if I need this later, to what if somebody else needs this now. Right? If you got here today, you're better off than most people. I had one lady, I'll never, well, my son Cooper, I don't think you know this story. My oldest son, we were running a 5K one time. And this is where I got this spirit of this tip. We were running a 5K, and running is a very strong word. We were walking a 5K. And very casually, and he goes, Dad, if we turn around and go the other way, we're in first place. And I said, I love your vibe, dude. I love your vibe. And that's kind of where I've gone with my donation, all right? There's someone else that needs this to be in first place. We don't need it. We're already done with it. It served us. It was a stepping stone, all right? It served us better. And when you donate, you can donate your whole house. You can do a lot of good with it. If you sell your stuff, you're going to spend the next 6 months fighting over nickels. Is your next 6 months of your life worth more than $50 a day? I think so. All right? You already decided you didn't want it. It's time to let go of it. And this is always a challenging one. What if you want to get rid of something that someone gave you? You don't even want it, but you feel guilty for holding on to it. You can let go of it. Find someone else that appreciates even more than you would. You'd be amazed how many people would appreciate your stuff. Right? The emotional satisfaction of giving is bigger than anything in the world. I had a lady, this is a story in the book, I'm going to tell it really fast. I had a lady that her husband was a master carpenter. He had a 60-year collection of tools you make. I mean, tools you can't even buy. Right? And the adult children were not carpenters, they were not tradesmen, and they just wanted to sell it. And we actually had an offer for about $40,000 for the set of tools. And the lady came to me, she said, what do you think I should do? And in my line of business, when a lady says, what do you think I should do? She already knows what she wants to do. She just feels like she needs permission to do it. And by the way, you never answer that question. I said, well, what do you think you should do? She goes, my son's going to be really mad, but Tony had an apprentice before he died, and they don't even know the guy. He lives down the street. He just had a baby. He's like 23 years old. She goes, he could never afford this. She goes, I don't think he'll ever afford this set. She goes, I kind of want to give it to him. She goes, what do you think I should do? I said, well, I can't answer that question. I said, but I think you already know the answer. And she goes, can I be there when we give it to him? I said, yeah, I think you should be there. We went, we gave it to him. It was like a movie. I mean, the lady was crying, she's holding the baby, the guy's hugging her. It changed his life forever. Nobody brought up the $40,000. Right? Sometimes giving is just better than selling. All right, I have to tell you, I work for Goodwill. I'm their national spokesperson, so I'm a little biased sometimes. They don't pay me. They just talk about me a lot, which helps. But I'll say this. Find a donation center that you align with. I don't care. I work for them, and I don't care if you donate there or not. Find a place that you really vibe with their mission. I work for them because they put a lot of people to work that would never have jobs otherwise. That's why I work with them. But if you've got a different charity you dig, great, go for it. I just want you to find something that you align to that makes you want to donate more. Right? And in the back of the book, there's like hundreds of donation places you can go to. All right, we got about 2 minutes left, I'll tell you. All right, decluttering mistakes, focusing on your reality life, not your fantasy life. I cannot stress this enough. Before I moved, this was my closet. Follow me from right to left. These were size 28s. These were 30s. These were 32s. I had a whole lot of 34s. I had 3 pair of 36s, which is what I still wear today. All right, 36s. 30 pair of pants in there, 3 fit me. That's 10%. Why am I holding on to them? Maybe when I start working out again, I'm going to get back into my 28s, right? That's a fantasy life. My real life is my 36 are getting tight. All right? So let's just not go to 38, all right? The rest of them can go, all right? Don't live in your fantasy life. All right? I had an 80-year-old lady that had her, she wanted to keep her baby crib. I said, are you planning on having any more babies anytime soon? And she was like, I'm offended. I go, seriously? She goes, I guess not. Yeah, you're right. Right? This includes everything, workout equipment, skis, bike, roller skates. I can't tell you how many 70-year-old people I've found their ice skates. Come on, we're in Florida. Like, you're not ice skating. We can let them go. All right? This does include all the board games that don't have all the pieces. It does include your Time Life and National Geographics. They are not valuable, I'm sorry. Not even the one with JFK or the moon. All right? None of them are valuable because they're all online now. All right? This also includes all of your encyclopedias. I'm sorry. I know. I'm sorry. Can't even donate them anymore. Is what it is. And yes, this includes all of the vases you have from all of the flowers that have been donated that you haven't touched since you threw away those dead flowers. You can donate them. Guys, I've been in the houses. By the way, I'm trying to use humor as much as possible. Why? Because this is really depressing if you don't laugh at it. And by the way, are we alone? We're all laughing at the same jokes, which means we all got the same stuff in our house. Okay? All right, I'm going to let y'all read this. Let me know when you get to the end. Okay. There's a lot of us that hold on to stuff because our dead relatives gave it to us, and we feel like we're going to upset them. In my house, that goes with, well, what would your grandfather think? That's what my mom says. Man, he died almost 30 years ago. Like, I've done other stuff he'd be more upset about. I don't think throwing away his green pants is an issue. All right? There is a guilt over 55. I don't know why it's that number, but that is the number. All right? I don't have the math of it. There is a real guilt, and most of them feel like they feel an obligation to do this themselves, to do this whole cleaning out themselves, and they feel an obligation to hold on to so much more than necessary. I promise you, your dead relatives really want you to have a better life. I promise you. I'm now old enough, I got a lot of kids. I want my kids to have a better life than me. I do not want my kids going through my crap when I'm gone. They're going to find some awful stuff. I grew up in the 80s, right? I did have to clean out my dad's house right after he died. My dad was a wild man. He died at 52 for a reason, right? I don't want my kids to do that. I don't want you guys to live that way. Let go of this stuff. You don't need it, all right? And it's usually that wooden couch in the room that we're not allowed to go into except during the holidays. It's got plastic on it. All right? The wooden couch always makes me laugh. All right? I want you to free yourself from that guilt. And we have this thing called punting. All right? Don't put this on your next generation daughter. I can't tell you how many times, well, I didn't want it either, but my mom made me have it, so you're going to take it. Grandma, I live in a van. I don't need a grandfather clock. All right? I'm joking, but I'm not. A lot of us feel the desire to pass that down and guilt our next generation only because that's what we went through. You don't need to. If you tell the stories, that stuff's still here. You just don't have the items weighing you down. All right? If you share those stories, they live on forever. All right, how do you find out if your loved ones don't want the stuff? You got to ask them. It's crazy. And the daughter will say, well, no, I don't want it, Mom. And you'll say, well, you're too young. You don't know what you need yet. I'm going to hold on to it for a few more years. All right? If the daughter or son says twice they don't want it, guess what? They don't want it. Get rid of it. It's okay. Tell the story, share the story, move on. Someone in your family might want it. A stranger might want it. Somebody will want it more even than your kids do. So get it to someone that wants it. All right? Spite items, pianos. I can't tell you how many adult sisters I've seen fight over pianos, and neither of them play music. All right, it usually comes down to Dad loved you more than he loved me. That's usually what that fight comes down to. I've been happy to put this bowl on here because when I got divorced, I knew my ex-wife wanted that bowl. So I made sure I got that bowl. Not because I wanted to cook with it, because I didn't want her to have it. All right? When I was writing this presentation, I've not done this presentation in front of my wife yet, so she might be mad at me. I'll find out when we get in the car. She said, hey, that's awful. Why did you order that bowl if you didn't want it? I go, I just didn't want her to have it. So I offered it to my ex-wife, and she's like, oh, I didn't want that bowl. I just didn't want you to have it. That bowl is now in my kitchen, and no one has ever used it. It has not been cooked in one time.
But it looks amazing.
But it looks beautiful. It's a great bowl. All right? Here's the thing. Downsizing is an amazing opportunity to share stories. Don't let negativity creep in. Right? We are so beat down by our stuff that it's easy to let negativity in. You got to fight it out because you can really actually, my brother and I did not speak for a very long time. We are just starting to talk again because we fought over a lot of my dad's stuff when he died. We were kids. We didn't know what we were doing. I actually wrote an entire chapter about fighting siblings, and when I talked to my brother, he said, how about we just keep that private? Let's not put it in the book. And I said, okay, but it's made us start talking again. Right? Don't let the stuff, it's stuff. Don't let stuff make up the families. If somebody wants it that bad, let them have it, man. It's just stuff. The irony is I'm now a minimalist. I married an amazing woman that's a minimalist. All the stuff that I didn't talk to my brother over for 10 years, I would have to give it to him last year when I moved anyway. I don't have stuff anymore. And I've never been happier, by the way. You know why? I got 7 kids. I'm really busy. I don't have stuff to weigh me down. All right, we're almost done. All right, leave the negativity at home. This is the last one, and this is the important one. There we go. Buying more stuff to get rid of stuff does not make sense. That means baskets, bins, new vacuum cleaners. Do you know how many Shark vacuum cleaners I have found in the box in people's houses? This same thing happens with fitness equipment. I'm going to work out, and they go and they buy. I think the whole yoga pant industry is built on this theory. All right? Jim's entire business plan is to sell you a membership and then hope that what? You don't show up. All right? Same thing with organizing supplies. If we want you to keep buying more supplies, you're not cleaning up. You're just moving it. All right? Get rid of. You got enough supplies because you got a closet full of the old brown paper bags with handles from the grocery store from 10 years ago. Anyway, double bag them. You can get anything in those things. They're not breaking. Am I wrong? No. That's why I'm saying it. I've seen them. We got a whole pantry full of them. All right? I hate baskets, by the way. Take your old Longaberg baskets, fill them up with crap, and take them to Goodwill, and you're done. All right? Here we go. All right. So to wrap it up, focus on your finish line and your why. This is the one you need to take a picture of, okay? Start really, I cannot stress. If it's 5 minutes, great. You did something. Be proud of yourself. All right? Create that legacy list. Start telling your stories. Donate, 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 donate. I promise you if you donate, you'll feel better. And the no guilt. Get rid of that guilt. It just doesn't matter. All right, and this will be online with the libraries. All right, have you learned something today? I'll go back to it in a minute. Have you learned something today that you can take action and start tomorrow? 10 minutes. Please, everybody say yes. Okay, yes. All right. I am going to, yes, ma'am. We got a few minutes for questions. Do we have a few minutes for questions? All right.
You mentioned a donation, okay?
Yeah.
And you know the old cherry furniture and all that's just...
Yes.
What happens when the donation places, Goodwill?
Goodwill won't take furniture anymore. Okay.
Nor will Salvation Army.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about that real quick. No, you can't take it all. This is not a chance for you to take it all. Who will? St. Vincent will take it. St. Vincent will take it. There's Friends of, yep. Start calling churches. That's what I do on furniture. Brown furniture is tough, y'all. Facebook Marketplace is a great place. If you put it on the Buy Nothing groups. Habitat Restore. Habitat's great. They'll take it. I love if you're comfortable with Facebook, the Buy Nothing groups on Facebook are good. I've really gotten good into the immigration groups where they don't have anything. There's some church groups that will take like Habitat has groups that when someone's house burns down, they'll refit the whole house. They would love your cherry furniture. I mean, so here's the thing. You got to dig a little bit. You got to make a couple phone calls. But I've been on so many of these things where I deliver an entire house of furniture because that person's house burned down, and we get to see them get a whole house full of stuff you didn't want anyway. Like, it's pretty gratifying, so it's worth the effort. Put 2 hours into calling. I promise you, somebody eventually will come get it. It's worth it. Yes, sir, in the back.
On your legacy list, I think you mentioned 5 items.
Yeah.
What's the magic number about 5? Or is it a magic?
I just aim low. I would say front of one piece of paper is where I would stop. 5, life's a negotiation, right? 5 becomes 15 real fast. But you and your partner need to agree on that number. And that's the hardest part. If you're by yourself, you can keep going. So if you're by yourself, I'd say front of a piece of paper.
And again, it's not the item.
It's the story. Yeah, it's the story. And the reason I like 5 items is, if I didn't repeat the question is, why 5 for the legacy list? I like 5 because, again, memories create more memories. And so if you start with a solid 5, man, you're going to have 20 stories. And that's okay. Like, as long as you're recording them. I really want you to record them. If you're going to record it, dude, go all day. I mean, that's great. Like, because the memory, as long as they're recorded, I mean, I've got, like, I actually go on Artifacts now, and I'll do a couple items a week. And so I'm starting to really store all my items, but I've already downsized. So I'm going through all the stuff I kept, because when it's gone, I want my kids to know the stories. But I've recorded them. And so I think 5 just gets you started. Start with 5. It doesn't mean empty the rest of the house. 5 is really the structure to get you to start telling the stories. And I've never been asked that question. Thank you. I like it. The original concept was a fire list. You had 2 minutes. The house catches on fire. You got 2 minutes to get it. And I would pull out an old stopwatch, not a cell phone, an actual round stopwatch, and I'd hit go. And I'd be like, okay, go find all the items. And they'd be like, oh, and they couldn't even get one. I'm like, house is burned down. You're dead. What'd you get? You know, and they're like, oh, I got 2 pictures. Right? So the point of that was just to get people focused on what mattered. But I think the real reality now is just get started on 5 and see where it goes. Yes?
Okay, so I watched Hoarders.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed to say it. And it weirdly calms me down for some reason. If I'm anxious, I'll watch it and it'll calm me down. But so one of the things, and you always seem very kind on that show, like you listen to the people and allow them to express their emotions and things like that. So I'm wondering, if you do hire a service to do the clean out, is there some sort of support person, or how would you? Great question. Okay, so good question. To repeat it real quick, she said Hoarders is awesome, mainly because of me. That's all she was saying. All right. Now, what she was saying was it calms her down, but it's really the compassion is what worked for you on that show, right? And we are just like a relentlessly compassionate group. If her question is, if you hire someone to help you, do you need a cleaner and a therapist? Not really. Those are the most extreme situations, like those are the Mount Everest of cleaning. In those situations, it would be unethical to clean without a therapist. I mean, because there's some real trauma that's happened to make the house look like that, right? And what I would say is, in a traditional house, there's a lot of really good cleaners that are around. They're basically called senior move managers. NASM, NASMM.org is the website. There's probably I know in Atlanta there's about 10, and I want you to call them all. Find the one that fits your mojo. You're going to be in this person is going to, be in your house, in your stuff for probably 2 weeks. Could you hang out with this person for 2 weeks? I had a lady one day, she goes, I don't find your jokes funny, and I really think she's like I don't like you. And I go, well, then I'm not your guy. Let's find someone that is. And we had one woman, a really bad hoarding situation where we realized she'd been abused by her father and her husband. And so we had an all-male clean-out crew. And we very quickly realized that's not going to work. So I said, man, because she was too abused to speak up. And I said, ma'am, I don't think we're going to work for you. Like, I'd like to refund all your money and help you find the right crew. Just call and express all your concerns, and the right person will rise to the top. But again, I think we're hearing you got to make some phone calls. And all these resources are available in the book and online, right? Just look. But you're in charge. Just because it's taken, a lot of people feel like because their house is messy, they've lost, they're not in charge of it. Just because you're hiring someone to help you doesn't mean you've let go of the control. You have to stay in control. You just have to find the right partner that helps you go at your pace and your style. And just be brutally honest and tell them what you need, and you'll find the right person to help. Yeah. Thanks for asking that question. Yes?
What do you do with all this stuff like animation art, sports memorabilia,
okay.
all these collectibles?
What do we do with all the collectibles? A lot of that stuff is sellable. If you don't want to bring an appraiser, which I wouldn't at first, when you have collections, like right now we're finding a lot of stamp collections. They were our grandfather's collections. So these stamp collections are from the 1880s, and some of them are from the 1840s. About 6 dudes out there that know this stuff now. Most of the stamp experts have died, right? Coins, baseball cards, you name it. I would just encourage you to, I go on 2 websites. I go on EBTH, everything but the house, ebth.com. I go on that website not to buy something, but to see what my stuff has sold for. I don't go on eBay, I'll be really honest. I don't buy it. I don't think it's real. And it says it sold for a certain amount. I don't know they really did. It doesn't, what it's listed for is not necessarily real. It's what did it sell for. So I go on EBTH and I go on Facebook Marketplace to see what it sold. You can just search the item and see it. And then you're going to need to start an inventory of what you have. And if you have enough stuff, I mean, honestly, you're going to want to call an auctioneer or you're going to want to call an appraiser to come in and look at it. If the appraiser offers to buy it, ask them to leave. They are not independent. If they're just a buyer. And so are they going to try to give you the most amount of money or the least amount of money? They give you less. So if someone offers to buy it as the appraiser, they are not a legitimate. There's a lot of, if you go on the book, on the resource, literally all the people you need to call for, and I even listed the top 100 collectibles in the back of the book, and I listed the websites I go to for each one. So it says stamps, it says baseball cards, it says coins, like it goes into deep detail. But I say a poor man's sort is go on EBTH, see what it sold for. And if you see a number you like, then you want to call an expert. But expect to pay about $200 for an appraiser to come in and look at some stuff. And your senior move manager will also have the contacts, and they'll know enough to know, like, hey, you shouldn't donate this. I'll tell you the place that most people underestimate financial value is in the costume jewelry. Your costume jewelry is still very interesting. Do not dump it. Do not get it looked at first. I mean, well, yeah, I mean, I've found, you wouldn't believe the stuff we found in people's houses that have much more value than you expect. It's usually the stuff you don't think has value does, and the stuff you do think has value does not. Right. Yes, ma'am.
In that same vein, real fur coats that are very...
Yep. Real fur coats, still a very strong market for it. Don't post that online. Somebody will show up at your house and protest it. You're in Georgia. You're fine. You'll find a market for it. I mean, there is absolutely a market. There's a couple of websites nationally. Expect a longer sale on that. But absolutely, real fur coats. I will say, I grew up in Virginia. So Richmond, Virginia was where all the tobacco buyers were for Philip Morris. So every house I would clean would have all the stuff from guys that were buying tobacco in the 30s in Africa. So I had a house full of like elephants and things that we can't legally sell anymore. So understand, some things just you can't sell anymore. But like, if it says made in occupied Japan on the China versus Japan, I mean, you're talking $10,000 difference. So like, please do the research. Occupied Japan is insane. I've only seen it once.
You sell occupied Japan.
You're going to call a specialist for that. Yeah, if you can't find your item at all anywhere online, I'd call an expert. And I've listed all the experts that I would trust. I mean, at our age, we have, something's only worth what an independent party is willing to pay for it. If you see it everywhere, and that's why I talk about brown furniture, we've all got it. So the price is only going to be X because we're all trying to sell it at the same time. But if you've got stuff that's been around for a long time, you haven't seen, mid-modern furniture is unbelievably valuable now. Especially, some of those old Eames chairs, they're going $5,000, $10,000 a piece in decent condition, not even in great condition. But if you've never seen it before, it probably has some value. If you see it in every house, it's not going to have any. Yes?
I just have more of a comment than a question. I really appreciate you telling the stories. Like we have a secretary in our house that my kids don't know why we have it. I have it because my
Is this woman taking notes just standing in the corner of the house? That's crazy. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I'd be confused too. Yeah.
I wanted it because my grandfather wrote bills on it.
There you go.
And that's the story that was in his house in Connecticut for years, and that's why I wanted it.
And what do you do for a career?
In sales.
Yeah, there's things like that, I'm an entrepreneur. I love my grandfather's store because I watched my grandfather build his own business, and I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. It may not make sense to everyone, but if it makes sense to you and the story jives and you love it, awesome. Now here's the challenge with that. that means you got to get rid of something in the house that's the same size as that secretary, right? We can't keep everything because it's an amazing story. And so that equal in, equal out, we didn't put the, I mean, I could go into 100 different rules, but equal in, equal out is really challenging for a lot of people. If you have something you really love, great, keep it, but then I got to see you get rid of something you don't need of the same size. And that's how you get the house, but tell those stories and defend it. I mean, I tell families, like, don't fight over it, but man, let's make, don't give in to your spouse all the time when you're downsizing, because that is something you will resent later. I mean, I'm not talking to you two individually, but I kind of am, actually, all right? Like, I mean, you got to make sure that you're doing this together, right? And sometimes it is appropriate, specifically for the male, to give in fully, right? Like, that's just marriage. But I will say downsizing, it's not. Sometimes you got to speak up and say, hey, this is important to me and this is why. And then you guys got to trade, right? And that's okay. And by the way, being messy is okay if everyone in the house is okay with it. I have to remind people all the time, some people are just messy and it does not bother them at all. And that ain't my problem, right? And some people are, I mean, I'm relentlessly clean to a point that it's annoying, right? And I hate when I come to people's houses and I see that they've clearly had the house like professionally cleaned because they know that I'm coming to the house that day. We actually had that one lady on Hoarders that it was one of the worst houses we ever saw in casting. And then we showed up to film. We flew an entire camera crew there, and then she just opened the door, welcome, and she had like a gown on, and the house was perfect. And we couldn't film anything, and we had to leave because there was nothing to film. She had cleaned it all. So I mean, own who you are, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, we talked about fantasy life. Like, don't create a house that you cannot keep up and that you would not enjoy, right? It's got to be a house that everybody would enjoy and you're going to live in and be happy. I think we got time for like one more question. Anybody? Yes, ma'am.
Are the houses on Hoarders really that bad?
Are the houses on Hoarders really that bad? Yes. I took 300 cats out of a lady's house. I had, my God, that was the worst house. I literally had to shave my head and body to get the smell out of me, and it didn't work. I still smelled, but I was bald at that point. And I mean, like, there's some really, I will say this on hoarding, it all will make sense if you get to know the trauma that caused that hoarding. Once you understand that trauma, it actually makes total sense. And hoarders are brilliant, amazing, honestly, some of the smartest people I've ever met. I just wrote an article 2 nights ago about this. I had a lady one time, she spoke 10 different languages, fascinating hoarder, one of the messiest houses I've ever been in. And I asked her a question, and she just stared at me. And I said, ma'am, do you understand the question? She goes, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what language to answer you in. Because she goes, some languages have better meaning in translation. And I said, what are you trying to say? She goes, well, I'd like you to leave. And I was like, I think that kind of says it, right? Like, I got it. Understood. If you ever watched Hoarders, it's the lady that ate all that food out of the house, the expired food. She was a brilliant woman. I mean, smartest woman I've ever met in my entire life. She was amazing. And I got to know her for a very long time. And I actually got to clean her house when she passed. Her family hired me. And just, they're actually incredibly brilliant, amazing people. Top 3 jobs for hoarding: nurses, teachers, social workers. What do they have in common? They're caregivers. They're caregivers, and I'm going to blow this. This is my hoarders row, I can tell. All right? They're caregivers because they hoard stuff to give it away to people they love. And they get their happiness and self-worth. They get their happiness and self-worth by giving things away. I could do another hour on hoarding. I won't tonight, but like, I promise you, hoarders are brilliant, amazing, incredible people. And that's why I learned to hear the stories, because I got to sit in their houses for 15 years. And I heard these insane stories. And I was like, wow, this is like what I want to do for the rest of my life. And unfortunately, it's too late. That's all I'm going to do for the rest of my life, I think. All right, this is my family. I just want to brag. Here's all the ways you can reach us if you need us. I'll be here signing books. If you need me, I'll be, right here. Behind this, I'll be here. Thank you guys very much for coming. I hope it was worth it. The what? Yes. Oh, yeah. That one. right, I think you guys want me to leave it on this one. I'll leave it on that one. All right, thank you guys for coming. Safe travels home. If you want to get a book, you can get it over there, and I'll be over here.
First off, this will be on, if you will Google, please, Gwinnett County Public Library YouTube channel, and then you'll see a playlist called Authors, and you can see all the authors that we've had over the years, including this one. Give us a couple of weeks for it to be edited. I want to thank the folks handling our bar over there. They're the Friends of the Gwinnett County Public Library. I hope you'll consider joining them. It's very inexpensive, and the $10 or $15 is tax deductible. Thank you to the Friends of the Library also for their silent auction. It is not closed yet. It's going to close in about 5 minutes. So I know you don't want to bring home any more stuff, but there's some really good stuff back there. So, yeah, thank you. It's for the library. I also want to point out that our bookseller is Eagle Eye Bookshop of Decatur, and they have been very dear personal friends to me. But they are also dear friends to this library, and 10% of the book sales comes back to the library to pay for those nice refreshments you enjoyed for no charge. If you want to meet our author, I do ask that you line up over there on the left side where those ladies are, and then come on up to me on the stage and he can sign your books. Thank you very much. It's been great to be here. Thank you, everyone.